powered each week by Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. If you have any tree trimming, tree removal, or stump removal needs, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal has you covered. In addition to doing tree work, they can also haul rock or sand. They do driveway work and can now do horizontal grinding. Give our friend Keith a call at 229-314-2048 or at 229-938-2412. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal is proud to be the premier sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, covering local sports in the Southwest Georgia area, creating content that is factual, positive, and informative, promoting efforts by athletes, coaches, and sports administrators. Now, here's your host, Tim Estes.
We are live at the Roman Oven Pizzeria here in Americus, and we would love for you to come and stop by and say hello, have a little dinner with us, and let's talk high school football here in Southwest Georgia. I'm your host, Tim Estes. I'm joined by our co-host, Scott Westbrook. If you're watching tonight on YouTube, we appreciate that. I want you to hit the subscribe button. Also, while you're watching on YouTube, if you'd like to interact with us, we have the live chat open, and we'd love for you to type in and let us know that you're watching. It's week 12 of the high school football season, the final week of the regular season for all of our local teams. And Scott, it looks like all three of our teams will be playoff.
Who would have thought that? Who would have taken that bet earlier in the season that all three would be in the playoffs? One, definitely. Two, probably. But all three is just unbelievable.
Even midway through the season, Scott, you and I probably had some doubts that one or two would make the playoffs, and these guys have really shown up and shown out in the second half of the season.
And more importantly, it looks like one in particular is starting to peak right at the end of the season. And right. We'll get into that a little bit later. But and Southland is going to be in a position to where they can. It looks like they may end up hosting a game and can kind of hit the reset button. Now they did have a key injury last week. We'll discuss later. But what a great opportunity to start fresh with a clean slate for all the teams, and ones that have got some momentum to keep it going, and the ones that may be having some little timing issues or things like that can hit the reset button and start all over.
Scott, a few weeks ago, we had a special guest on by the name of Drew Mohan. Drew is a biomedical engineering student over at Georgia Tech. He's on several podcasts and has done a really good job of setting up a database that he pumps a lot of data into, and he uses no emotion. He simply goes on the data, and his prognosticating skills are superior.
Well, having that Georgia Tech background, but also being a high school football fan, and I've told you I followed him a long time on Instagram, and he is one of my favorite follows, second only to Britney Spears, of course. But he is just a wealth of knowledge, especially to be such a young man, a college student. I know he's trying to juggle a lot, but I hope we can get him on there again, maybe once or twice before the season's out.
Yeah, we're going to try to get Drew on with us next week as we start playoffs, and Drew can kind of give us a look by the numbers at what Southland, Sumter, and Sly's outlook is as far as numbers go. But he really made a big impression on several that watch our program every week. And so, Drew, if you're watching tonight, and I know you are, we look forward to having you back on the show, and hopefully you can help predict some of these outcomes throughout the playoffs with us. Also want to thank tonight One Digital Solutions. They are a steward of business growth and personal development. Their insurance, financial, and HR platforms provide you with a personalized, tech-enabled solution for a contemporary work-life experience. One Digital resolves real problems for your business and for your employees by fusing together customized solutions that address things like employee benefits, HR, and financial services. It's really everything all in one. It's One Digital Solutions. Call Will Peterson. His number is 229-347-6289. Again, that's Will Peterson, 229-347-6289. One Digital is proud to be a sponsor here on the Integrity Sports Podcast. The first school we want to address as far as last week, Scott, and looking ahead to what they've got this week, let's start with Southland Academy this week. Southland had a big win over Tift Area Academy, 28-22. They took down former Sumter County coach Eric Soliday, who's one of our favorite people. Really good guy, really great coach. Southland got the best of Tift Area last week, 28-22. Southland's record now is 3-6. And Scott, this week their opponent's going to be Deerfield Windsor, who's really struggling. They're 1-8 right now.
Well, and it's good that Southland's coming off that win. You know, they and going into Deerfield Windsor. Don't think that Deerfield Windsor has taken this game lightly. You know, Southland is definitely going to get Deerfield Windsor's best effort. They will, you know, beating Southland might be the bright shining star in what has been a relatively dismal season for Deerfield Windsor. So it should be an interesting game. But Southland does have some momentum. They did have a key injury last week. The Rogers young man, I think he hurt his knee, and we got some bad news that he may be having to have some surgery and a pretty lengthy recovery time. So that's one thing that's going to stick out. It's going to be tough for them to fill this week and into the playoffs.
Yeah, Camden Rogers, a really good up and coming athlete for Southland Academy. Got to know Camden on the baseball field earlier last year, and very impressed. He's a kid that's got a bright future, and we wish him a speedy recovery for sure. The Raider defense got the scoring started last Friday night as Mac McMichael, the sophomore defensive back, picked off a John Robert Walker pass, took it back for a touchdown. Cooper Boren booted the PAT, and the Raiders had a very early 7-0 lead. Tift Area Academy, led by former America's High coach Eric Soliday, would take the next possession all the way down the field, and Walker would hit John Jackson in the end zone for a touchdown. They went for 2, and they got it, and they led early on 8-7. No more scoring in the first quarter. They went to the second quarter. Raider quarterback Banks Simmons would find Trey Sellers, and Trey would carry it 58 yards for the Southland touchdown. Southland this time decided to go for 2 points, and Simmons found Cade Futch in the end zone for the 2-point conversion. The Raiders led it 15-8. On the Panthers' next possession, Lance Cole would cap off a Tift Area drive with a rushing touchdown. Tift Area went for 2, and they were successful, and it was 16-15 Tift Area. That was the halftime score. So a good first half there at Southland Academy. Then with 5:36 left to go in the third quarter, Trey Sellers would run it in from the 5-yard line. Southland went for 2. It failed, but still the Raiders were up at that point 21-16. Southland's final touchdown came after a Fisher Brett interception, in which he returned it to the Tift Area 10. From there, you'd see Luke Terry carry it in the end zone. Cooper Boren again would kick the PAT, and the Raiders led 28-16 at that point. Southland did allow a late touchdown with 26 seconds left to go in the game, but they'd hang on to win it, Scott, 28-22. Sounds like the defensive backs for Southland really had an outstanding game. Both Mac McMichael and Fisher Britt interceptions.
That's true, Tim. And this game was a back and forth game, you know, which is an exciting game to watch as a fan, but it's gut wrenching for the coaches and the players. You know, just when you sit there and think you're going to have a little bit of momentum, you hopefully can pull away from your opponent. You get snatched right back down, and you're fighting from behind again. So it's a lot of fun to watch a game like that, but it's not a lot of fun coaching and playing in a game like. I guess it is playing, but the coaches, you know, they'll something will work for them, and then the next series it may not work for them. So,
well, this week Southland takes on Deerfield Windsor, and Deerfield's not having your typical Deerfield Windsor season. They come into the contest at 1-8. their quarterback, Lance Seals, he has 11 passing touchdowns on the season. Cole Jones is their leading rusher. He's only averaging 66 yards per game, has 7 rushing touchdowns. But, Scott, when you think about a guy that leads a team in rushing, and he's only averaging 66 yards, and he's averaging less than a touchdown per game, sounds to me like Deerfield really struggling on the offensive side of the ball.
It's tough to win a game with those kind of stats. Those two just jump out to you, like you said. And I've heard of one person say a long time ago, said, the sun don't shine on the same dog's butt all the time. Well, the sun ain't shining on Deerfield right now. And a lot of times fans have a hard time grasping that. With these small rural schools, whether they're private or public, there's an ebb and flow, and you get some talent in at one time, and 3 years later, you may be on the other end of the spectrum. Deerfield, Windsor, they'll be back on top, and they'll be running the table in a few years. But it may be, or it may be Southland's turn. But right now, Deerfield, Windsor struggling, but still, this is a rivalry game for Southland and Deerfield, Windsor, and those are totally unpredictable.
And I want to talk a little about the rivalry here in just a minute, Scott. We talked about their rushing. If you look on the receiving side, they've had 11 receiving touchdowns, but all 11 of those have come from 2 different guys. John Allen Rigsby, who comes into the Southland game averaging 11 tackles, is their star on defense. So you've got 7 rushing touchdowns, 11 receiving touchdowns, and then they've got a guy like John Allen Rigsby who's really racking up the tackles from the linebacker position. So, Scott, Deerfield is always going to be Deerfield. And Southland and Deerfield, like you said, have that rivalry. And the rivalry means sometimes you can throw the records out the window and let the emotion kind of take over for a little while.
And sometimes these rivalry games, the ones that are having all the stats and all the luck throughout the season, the opposing team may have them figured out, may have a scheme to limit their success. And all of a sudden, some kid who's got a fire in his belly jumps out and has the game of his life. And that sometimes separates these rivalries. We've seen it happen before, and it could very well happen tomorrow night.
Scott, in addition to that, Cole Jones will line up on the defensive side at a defensive end slot at times. He leads their team in quarterback hurries. But from all accounts that I can see, Scott, it just looks to me like Southland is a little better football team at this point than is Deerfield.
The Southland's a 7-point favorite, which I think is very conservative considering the records and what's going on coming into the game. I would think Southland would fare better than 7 points, but as we've stated over and over again, it's a rivalry and you never know.
Today's show is also brought to you by Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance. They are located at 925 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Americus. Go by and see Marty, Mary Lynn, or any of his staff, and let them discuss your insurance needs. They can even do a discount double check to ensure that you're receiving all of the savings that are available to you. You can reach out to Marty on Facebook or call him at 928-3686. Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance supports all of our local high schools, and like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Scott, I want to next go to Sly County, and we'll leave Sumter County for last, and I think we got a good bit to talk about with Sumter County this week. Sly County had their rivalry game last week. They traveled down to Marion County. The Wildcats were able to come out on top 36-0. So Sly County's record going into this week is 9-0. They are still ranked number 1 in Class A Division II. And they'll be on the road to Greenville this week, who's currently 2-6. Their current wins are over Marion County and Chattahoochee County.
Not exactly a single A Division II powerhouse. Greenville is this year. They've had some strong teams in the past, but it doesn't look like they have one in 2023. we've got to make that pilgrimage tomorrow afternoon, head up to Greenville. Probably going to have to leave right after we finish the show so we can make it in time for the game to start. But for all intents and purposes, Sly should cakewalk this one. I think Coach Alford is going to probably give a lot of the younger guys a shot in this game to show what they can do. They were able to show what they could do last week, and we'll cover some of that. But I barring Greenville catching lightning in a bottle tomorrow night, Sly should win this one easily.
I want to recap quickly the game last week. Scott was a little different than I expected. Marion County came out with a really good game plan, and the whole quarter went scoreless. Neither team could score.
Well, Sly contributed to that a little bit because they came out flat. Just to be honest with you, they came out not necessarily what we're so fearful of from one week to the next. Sly County just not taking a team seriously, taking them lightly, and I know Coach Alford fights that every week. That's the kryptonite of it for a team that's undefeated and has played some pretty stiff competition. You worry about how they're going to handle a Marion or a Greenville, and we saw last week a Sly County team that just came out flat.
Jay Kanazawa got the scoring started on the first play of the second quarter when he hit Carson Westbrook, who made some nifty moves. Kind of reminded me of his dad, and he took it into the end zone. Rueda would kick the PAT, and the Cats led 7-0, only a few minutes into the second quarter. Just a few minutes later, KB Aldridge would take the handoff from Kanazawa, and he would waltz into the end zone untouched. After a Marion County penalty on the PAT, Sly decided to go for two. They handed it to Zayden Walker. If you know much about Zayden Walker, not many want to tackle him, and they didn't. Zayden got in for the 2-point conversion, and the Cats led it 15-0. Midway through the second quarter, a skirmish would break out on the field. Both teams had some players that were ejected, and we'll talk a little about that after we get through with the recap. But both teams had a few players ejected, and with just seconds left to go in the first half, backup quarterback Blake Weldon, who played an incredible game, he would find Jordan Hudson, another guy that's an up-and-coming receiver who did a great job, and they connected on a 32-yard touchdown pass. Sly would have a 22-0 lead going into the locker room. Those two guys kept the connection going as they came out in the third quarter. Kanazawa again found Hudson for a 36-yard touchdown. Rueda's kick was good, and the Cats had a commanding 29-0 lead. Cambridge would again find the end zone later on in the fourth quarter, and the Cats for that 36-0 lead. Scott, we had a few players that didn't get to play in the second half because of that ejection. Our understanding is once the Columbus Officials Association reviewed the tape of that, they felt the ejections were not warranted and did not turn those to Georgia High School. So both the players on Marion County's team that were ejected as well as those on Sly's team will be eligible to play this week.
That's mine and your understanding from everything we've heard this week. I think probably the officials maybe overreacted. They probably were primed for the game a little bit, being a rivalry, and thinking that maybe they were just a little too eager and anticipating something like that. And that's going to happen. You and I have seen worse in our time where there were no ejections. So probably the cooler heads prevailed once the head of the officials in Columbus looked at it and realized maybe it was overreaction, which I commend them for doing that, because they didn't have to do that. They could have said no, because it's rare for a head official to do something like that and to say, hey, look, maybe y'all didn't looked a little more into it than what was actually there. You talked about Carson's nifty moves. Yeah, he learned those whenever as a youngster, when I would break a switch. He learned how to run and evade that. So I like to think I contributed to it.
Well, I was going to say, I think he learned those really young in the front yard.
Mm-hmm.
And I hoped when I said that, you would say, yeah, we used to get out and do that. And I was going to say, well, no, it's when his mom was chasing him with a switch.
Well, I'm telling you, the problem is we had Carson later in life, and he was of the three of ours. He was definitely, we've shared this with people, the most active. I mean, when he was, as soon as he could get up and and move from point A to point B. When he went from walking to running, and once he started running, it was, how you see like a cat sometimes will like wake up and run to the next room for no reason. He did the same thing. So Michelle and I would just look at each other like, as long as he's not going out of the house, we're just gonna let him run around and run that energy out. So he comes by it honestly.
In addition to that touchdown pass Carson had, he also had his 17th career interception for the Cats.
Let's just pray the special teams coaches for the other team don't review those tapes and realize because the blockers just waved Carson by and Sam Forehand and some of the others who've had some really good tackles on special teams. I guess they can only block so many, and one of them's going to squeeze through there. And we've got some really good tacklers on the special teams, and Carson was just the beneficiary of them paying attention to the other defenders other than Carson.
Yeah, Carson went untouched on the kickoff, had the best hit we've seen all year. So a good night for Carson Westbrook. Scott, a great night, I thought, for backup quarterback Blake Weldon, who's had a lot of playing time, just due to the fact we've gotten a lead early in some games. He's had some play. I know he had some injuries early in the year, but both he and Jake Little, who came in at quarterback some, I thought they performed well.
How about the chemistry that our Jake and especially Blake had with Jordan Hudson?
Yeah.
Man, I'm just telling you, they've played on obviously Scout O so much that they've gotten their timing down and they stepped right into that role. Jordan, he almost had the hat trick. He almost had 3 touchdowns against Sly's rivalry, and what does that say to Marion County when because of some events, some of the starters weren't playing. We beat you with the backups, So I think that's that bodes well for us going into the playoffs. If we get into a situation where some guys have got to step up who may not have gotten the first team reps a lot during the regular season.
And this game tomorrow at Greenville will not be on the radio, Scott. They'll have Southland Academy and Deerfield will be on 98.7. Sumter County and Jeff Davis will be on 94.7. So what we're going to do is the Integrity Sports Podcast is going to broadcast on Facebook Live tomorrow night. So we'll carry the Sly County Greenville game on Facebook Live. If you're watching this tonight, make sure and tell your friends who want to hear or see the game to go to my personal Facebook page, and the Integrity Sports Podcast will carry that game for you live tomorrow. Scott, going to be a lot of fun. My prediction, not only is Sly County a much better football team than Greenville, typically this time of year, Greenville, if they know they're not going to be in the playoffs and the basketball has started bouncing, that's where their thoughts go.
Perhaps, and I know Coach Alford. Coach Alford has said repeatedly, our offense has done a tremendous job all season long, but he knows they can be better. He has said it repeatedly. He knows that the offense could benefit from maybe working on some reps tomorrow night. So I bet he gets the first team in there, lets them get some reps going into the playoffs, let them have the confidence and the timing down to where they can go into the playoffs, performing at the level that he knows they can perform at, and that Coach McCorkle knows they can perform at, and then maybe once we hopefully get a comfortable lead, then the other guys, the younger guys, can get in there. Those of you who are watching this live, Macon County has just jumped on Marion County 7-0. Macon County scored on a fumble return on Marion's first offensive play, so a scoop and score on Marion's first offensive play. Manchester is up 8-0 over Taylor right now on some Thursday night games.
2 Thursday night games in this region, and Scott and I will try to keep you posted on those. I want to say hello to Billy Goodman. Thank you for checking in with us on our live chat. Also want to say hello to Clarence Stewart, who's watching in tonight from Helena, Georgia. Glad to have you watching, Clarence, as well. All South Appraisals is your trusted partner in appraising rural properties in our area. They can handle all types of property, whether it's agricultural, commercial, or residential. From vast farmlands to that charming country home that defines the heart and soul of our communities, All South Appraisals has a commitment to accuracy and dedication, and to the unique nuances, Scott, that's hard to say, unique nuances of rural properties. And that's what sets All South Appraisals apart. They blend modern technology with old-fashioned attention to detail to provide you with an appraisal you can trust. Whether you're a lender, an attorney, an accountant, a real estate agent, a broker, or a property owner, give All South Appraisals a call. Their number is 478-837-3818. Again, that's 478-837-3818. All South Appraisals, proud to be a sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast. And Scott, that'll get us to Sumter County. Man, what a turnaround that Coach Will Rogers has had with the Sumter County Panthers program. They defeated Worth County 39-34 last week to run their record to 5-4. Sumter County will travel down to Hazelhurst, Georgia, to take on a Jeff Davis team that is currently 4-5, and a Sumter County win will give them the number 3 seed in the region, because Cook County won their appeal with GHSA this week. So you'll have Cook County, that's the 1 seed. If they win, I guess they're the 1 seed anyway. Fitzgerald would be the 2 seed. So Sumter trying to secure that 3 seed with the win this week. Scott, the Panthers seem to be getting better and better each week.
They are. They're peaking. Like we had a little tease at the beginning of the show talking about, somebody that's peaking at the right time. It looks like Sumter County is peaking at the right time. What it was, they had a few days of happiness that the GHSA decision that came down really favored Sumter County and some other teams in the region, but then a judge took it away, and then the appeal process, and they're back to where they were before the Cook County decision. But Sumter County has, they have not let that affect them at all. They went and took care of business down in Worth County. I felt quite, Worth County had that young quarterback down there that's doing well, but the defensive backs and the defensive line at Sumter County stood up to them and won a game. It was a close game, but won it nonetheless.
Let's recap that real quick. Ja'Cory Wise opened the scoring in the first quarter with a 44-yard touchdown run. The Panthers elected to go for 2, which is really unusual, Scott. They've got a really good PAT kicker, but they went for 2 and they got it. So they had an 8-0 lead early on. Near the end of the first quarter, quarterback Anthony Tyson would score on a quarterback keeper. The Panthers again went for 2 and were successful, and they had a quick 16-0 lead. Worth County responded in the second quarter with a touchdown pass of their own. Quarterback Lyndon Worthy hit Kaori Walker for a 33-yard scoring strike. Their PA good, and it was 16-7. Late in the first half, Ja'Cory Wise would again find the end zone, and 22-7. Then right at the end of the first half, with just seconds left, Worth County would toss another touchdown pass, this time for 11 yards. And the halftime score was Sumter County 22, Worth County 14. Early in the third quarter, Panther kicker Alan Gonzalez booted a 44-yard field goal to stretch the Panthers' lead out to 25-14. And the Rams, they just wouldn't go away. They scored another touchdown, but the PAT was no good. But all of a sudden, it's 25-22, and you got a great ball game. Quarterback Anthony Tyson again would take a quarterback keeper into the end zone in the third quarter. That would stretch the Panthers' lead out to 32-20. And the big play of the night came right at the end of the third quarter when A.J. Kearse would intercept a pass, and he would carry it down the sidelines for the Panthers, and that would stretch their lead out to 39-20. They did allow a couple of late touchdowns, but the Panthers held on to a 39-34 victory over Worth County. This week, they travel down to Jeff Davis. It's a big night for the Yellow Jackets with the playoff implications on the line. Jeff Davis's coach Helton has said, Scott, that Sumter County coach Will Rogers has had the biggest turnaround in the AA classification.
And you and I've said the same thing for weeks. I mean, Coach Will Rogers, and if you notice, every week we're calling the same playmakers. They're stepping up, the same guys, the ones that we said at the beginning of the season. We said, if Sumter County is going to turn it around, these are the kids, these are the players, these are the young men who are going to have to step up to the plate and do it. And the ones that we said from the first week on are the very ones that are doing it.
And here's the folks, if you're a Panther fan and you're going down to Hazelhurst, these are the folks that you need to look out for. The Jackets are led by their quarterback, Colby Beach. They are a run-first team. That's what they want to do. They want to run it down your throat. They don't throw it a whole lot. They've got 3 guys, Scott, that run the football on a regular basis. All of them have over 60 carries on the season. But they're led by Kyrus Hunt, who's their top running back, Kyrus Hunt. And the Panthers just need to go down there with the idea we've got to stop the run and force them to throw. And I think the Panther offense has been clicking on all cylinders for several games. If they can keep that going, I like Sumter County.
Yeah, if Sumter County forces them to throw with, Kearse and some of the other DBs that are back there, that is going to put Jeff Davis in a position they're not comfortable with. But I'm sure a lot of teams have gone in with that same game plan, and Jeff Davis has run the ball with success. So we'll hear early that Jeff Davis has been stifled on the run, and that Sumter County jumps out with probably a 1 or 2 touchdown lead, and that's exactly where Coach Will Rogers would want them to be, enforcing Jeff Davis in a game they're not comfortable with.
Also want to say hello to Kerry Claiborne, listening from up in Beaufort, Georgia. Beaufort's had another outstanding season. Kerry serves as the PA announcer for the Wolves and checks in with us each week. We're going to have to get him on here sometime during the playoffs and let him tell us about the Beaufort Wolves. Thanks, Kerry, for checking in.
Didn't the Beaufort softball, didn't they win the state championship?
I haven't checked.
I think they did.
Maybe Kerry can let us know in the live chat.
I think they've had a pretty good run for quite some time. But yeah, I think that Beaufort, I think they won the softball over in Columbus. So
got several folks checking in, Scott. We got an update. It's 15-0 now, Manchester, and it's 7-7 between Macon County and Marion County. That's in the first quarter. They're playing Thursday night games. Want to say hello to Coach William Rooks from Sly County, who has come in with us, as well as one of our sponsors, Will Peterson from One Digital Solutions, has come in to join us. Dr. Sean Sheff was here earlier, so we've had a good crowd here at the Roman Oven tonight.
Dr. Sheff brought in his own maple syrup. I guess the maple syrup they had here wasn't really good enough, so he had to bring. I don't know. He dropped the bottle. He dropped the bottle, and I thought it was a liquor bottle at first. I thought he is sneaking some liquor in to the Roman Oven of all places. But it was. Well, that's that. Hey, that's his tail. I sit on mine.
We hope that you'll come by and be a part of our show as we continue it here. We always have a good time here at Roman Oven. Scott, let's look at a few of the other area games. The first one, Marion County tonight. They're taking on the number 3 ranked Macon County Bulldogs. Marion County at 4-5. Macon County comes in tonight at 7-2. And we just had an update. Marion had scored, so it's now 7-7 midway through the first quarter.
Well, I had this written down. Now, Macon County is a 36-point favorite. But the notes I had made earlier, I said I thought that Macon County would probably score early on a turnover, but Marion County would come back in time and make it interesting early. That's kind of what I had written down.
You and Drew Mohan.
That's it.
Are really good for a prognosticator.
Well, but I still think Macon County will end up winning the ball game.
here's another one, Scott. They're playing tonight. Taylor County, they come in at 6-3, and they're hosting the number 2 ranked Manchester Blue Devils, who are only playing 9 regular season games this year. They're at 6-2 going into tonight.
Well, and Taylor County's got a key injury. Cameron Lawhorn, the quarterback and linebacker, he's hurt his knee. Hopefully, they're going to have him back for the playoffs. Is what but he's missing tonight, and it's going to be tough for. He's one of the senior leaders on the team, and it's going to be tough to stop that Manchester offense without him on the defense.
Scott, Crisp County is open this week. They finished the regular season last week, and their final record 6-4. Well, you and I early on felt like it was going to be a down year for Crisp, and it started that way. But Crisp County really has played well the last few games.
You know, you talk about peaking late in the season. That's what you want to do. You don't want to peak early in the season. You want your last 3 games is what gives you the momentum and the inertia that gets you into through the playoffs. Manchester is ranked is favored by 29 points, and I feel like Manchester will win in Taylor. But Crisp County, I talked to one of my good friends over there who's a Crisp County fan through and through. When we first started this, and I called him and I told him, I said, "Tell me what Crisp County is going to do this year." He said 5-5. That's what he said.
So they did one better.
They did one better. So when you most die in the wool, one of your most die in the wool fans says that it's going to be a 5-5 season, and you do one better than that, then locally they got to be pleased and feel that they at least did better than what the locals thought they would do.
I want to say hello to Marty McDonald, who's also checking in, watching live tonight. Marty McDonald, State Farm Insurance, is one of our sponsors here. And Marty, we appreciate all you do for the schools here in Sumter County. Scott, another one that I think is going to be closer than maybe some may think. Lee County at 7-2 is going to host Tiff County at 2-7.
I think Lee County is going to beat them by the zip code. I think Tiff County, their coach has already said that he's checking out after the season's over. They may play with some emotion, but the quarterback at Tiff County, who has played at Fitzgerald and Lee County, will not be playing that game.
I did not know that.
Yeah. He came out and said that this past week, I think he's going to Alcorn State. I think is where he's headed. But he put on, if I remember correctly, he last week was going to be his last high school game. I don't think he's playing tomorrow night, so that makes it even a little more in the favor of Lee County over Tiff County.
All right, Scott, that'll take us to the Who You Got part of the show. And Scott, we've got 3 games. All of our local teams playing their last regular season game. Let's start with Southland Academy at Deerfield. Who you got?
I think if Academy does not go to if Southland County Academy goes to Deerfield with the thought and realize that they can be beat tomorrow night and they play to that caliber and to that level and really want to win the game and not take them lightly, I think they'll win and win big. I think if they go down there with a complacent attitude or just lackadaisical, then Deerfield Windsor's poised for an upset. Southland is favored by 7, so I feel like Southland's going to win it. But it's the attitude of the players is going to be the defining. Nothing because the coaches have got it ready, they got the athletes, they got a key injury, but the reality is Southland should beat them by 3 touchdowns. But it's going to be the attitude of the players that's going to separate it.
Looking at the GIAA playoff picture, the number 7 team hosts the number 10 team in the first round of the playoffs. Southland, listen to me. Tift Area Academy beat Deerfield 20-0. They shut them out. You go do the same thing, and from what I've got figured, it looks like you would be the number 7 team. Deerfield would end up the number 10 team, and you'd play Deerfield again if that's how it turns out. But you'd host it and get a chance to win your first playoff game as well. So, Scott, I too think Southland's going to go down there and take care of business. I think it's going to be by more than the 7 point that Maxwell rating system has them at. I'm going to go with the Raiders by at least 2 touchdowns. All right, our next one is Sly County at Greenville. Also, another easy one to call. Who you got?
I mean, Sly County, they're 48-point favorite. Just piggybacking off what I just said about Southland, there's two things I've always told my kids. There's two things that you can control, and you can separate yourself from the herd by work ethic and attitude. You can sit there and have a poor work ethic and a poor attitude, and that's going to separate you from the herd in a bad way. You can have a good work ethic and a good attitude, and that's going to separate you in a good way. If these teams tomorrow night, Southland and Sly County, go down there with a strong work ethic and a great attitude, they'll both waltz in with a victory. But they cannot take either one of these two teams lightly. You let Greenville hang around and we're going to talk about a game here that's being played on Thursday night right now that one of the local teams has allowed a team to hang around and get a little bit of momentum and we've got a surprising score to report in just a minute.
All right, our last game, Scott, Sumter County travels to Hazelhurst. They'll take on Jeff Davis. If Jeff Davis wins, they're in. Sumter County needs to beat Jeff Davis. Who you got?
Sumter County's a 12-point favorite over Jeff Davis. I think they're going to win. They want to continue. I know Coach Will Rogers wants to continue his winning momentum into the playoffs. I know that the players at Sumter County have bought in. I think they are chomping at the bit to get on that bus and head to Hazelhurst and win that ball game tomorrow night.
Tommy Eubanks checking in. He says, "Hey, great show, guys." I think we got an update on Buford softball national champs. He said, so congratulations, Kerry, to the Buford Wolves softball team. Of course, Billy Goodman also checking in with us. Glad to have Billy tonight as well. We just got an update on the Macon County Marion game, Scott. And I haven't gotten if the PAT was good or not, but it does look like Marion County has a 13-7 lead over Macon County with 3:31 left to go in the first quarter. Scott, that surprises me.
No, it surprises me a lot because Macon County is head and shoulders better than Marion County. We've seen both teams. We've seen the talent level of both teams. We've seen Macon County. When they played Sly County, they were injured. They were beat up. I don't think they're injured and beat up. There's no excuse for them to sit there and be down. They should be up by 3 touchdowns now.
It's been really comfortable for the last 12 weeks. If a team stumped their toe, you probably had time to recover. Beginning next week, that's not the case. All 3 of our teams hopefully will be in the playoffs, and they need to be really focused every Friday night. Scott, I think it's going to be a lot of fun doing the show in a playoff atmosphere.
I hope we can get Drew back, and I catch myself just listening to him sometimes, and what he says. I feel like I'm listening to some guy that works at ESPN when he's spitting out all his facts and stats and all.
And we want to thank you for watching the Integrity Sports Podcast. We want to thank our sponsors, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal, Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance, One Digital Solutions, and All South Appraisals. And of course, we also want to thank Anthony and the staff here at the Roman Oven Pizzeria for allowing us to do our show from here. You can find us each week on Facebook, on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and several other social media and podcast platforms. We're averaging around 1,600 viewers each week, and we thank you for being a part of that. Here's one thing we want to ask you to do this week. No matter what platform you're watching the show on, share that. We want to try to reach 2,000 viewers this final week, and one of the ways we can do that is if you're watching and you share that with all of your friends and let them watch it. So hit the like button and share it on Facebook, retweet it on Twitter, whatever you have to do. If you're on LinkedIn, we've got a lot of viewers watching on LinkedIn. Make sure and share that with your friends. But Scott, 1,600 as an average, not too bad.
Not too bad at all. That's right. That's when you sit there and you look at the population of our general area. That's an impressive percentage of the people who live here.
And then next week we will make a big push to try to hit the 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and make sure you're a subscriber, not just a viewer. Hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a dime. We've had a lot of fun tonight. I want to thank those who have stopped by and joined us, as well as you that are listening and watching on whatever platform it is. For my good friend, Scott Westbrook, I'm Tim Estes. Thanks for watching. So long, everybody.